everyone. Welcome to another Poor Choices episode, that time of the month, with the lovely guest, Lynn Jones. Welcome back, Lynn.
Is she our guest or is she our host this time? I think
she's kind of our host.
I am your facilitator this time.
We're the guests this time. Lynn is the host. Role reversal.
This time.
Yes, welcome back. Thank you for doing this. This is going to be very interesting because we're doing what I like to call role reversal, where you're going to facilitate questions and we're going to have the answers, hopefully good answers.
X-Ray Girl loves to facilitate. That's for sure.
Well, I'm a project manager, and she and I were both talking because we're contingency planners. We drive everyone around us and ask them, okay, but what if this doesn't work? Or what if that doesn't work?
Yep.
It'll be fine. Well, what if it isn't?
We just have plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way probably to Z.
Exactly.
I remember one of the funniest times I streamed, the power went out for like 10 minutes and I go to Gary, I'm like, I can't come back on FNT. Like the next plan I have is to drive to Toronto with an hour. He's like, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Well, yeah, Gary had to do it himself though. It's actually always entertaining when Gary's trying to figure it out.
Yes. And I don't enjoy it because sometimes I feel like I'm like, is it going to be more work for me later? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah,
absolutely.
But yes, so we had Lynn on 2 months ago now. Time passes by so
2 or 3.
It's been that long already. Jeez,
I don't know.
Like I'm like not centered.
It's been a while.
I can check, but it's fine. It'll be somewhere in the analytics. And so we talked to her about her family life, how she came to be kind of in this space, and I think she's going to be doing the same with us.
The idea, yes. So what kind of started this, the reason I wanted to do this is I was watching you and Mark, I think it was on the dating game, and Kelly was in the other room. So how did these guys get involved in all of this? Because you're both kind of girly. Yeah, they're pretty girly. And this is a fairly masculine world. I mean, I grew up, I've worked in IT for most of my life. So I've always worked with men. I had boys. I'm always around, Kelly's nerd friends. They weren't really nerds, but they qualify. So it just, to me, kind of just sort of fell in place. But, and so he's like, well, they're kind of girly. So how did this whole thing come about? And so I reached out and I said, how did all this come about? And I said, I bet I'm not the only person who would be curious about this because it is kind of an unusual phenomenon happening on YouTube. And it's something I've noticed with a lot of the other women who are emerging on YouTube. And it's kind of this new, so what I'm calling the quote, alt-right feminism, unquote, because I'm seeing, I love the glass. That's not quite as big as the one that I saw earlier, but that works.
Wait for it. I love this part.
It's a candelabra.
I got this,
girl. Like Meg.
You can't really tell just because it's not quite. But maybe it's a princess. I got it at the Beauty and the Beast restaurant at Disney World, like however many years ago. But it's got like the rose for Belle and the teacup and Cinderella's slipper and all that. So
that is awesome.
Very cute.
Okay, so anyway, sorry.
It's okay. We get distracted by pretty things.
It's always every time I have it, people are like, "What is that?" Best cup ever.
No, all you need is a little thing on it so it talks, and then it would be Beauty and the Beast.
That would be cool. That would be cool. I did ask the girl when I bought it. She was like, "Do you want a souvenir cup?" And I was like, "Can I put wine in the souvenir cup?" And she's like, "Not here, but yes." And I was like, "Fair.
We don't mind."
Disappointing, but fair.
I thought she meant, that's fine. I was looking at something your husband just put in the chat. So anyway, it got me to kind of thinking, like I was starting to say, there's this emergence of women in YouTube. And maybe they've been there for a while. Maybe I'm new to it. But it's a new kind of feminism to me. And it's women who are traditional. You have traditional views, traditional values. You honor the sanctity of marriage. You believe that children are an important part of it. Even if you don't have them, you don't deny the other people's children. But you're professionals, you're witty, you're funny, you're sexy.
Ah,
Not
thank you.
things you would see is sort of that real trad wife. You know what I mean? Not the kind of the image of the there's a lady I saw today that was the perfect image, and she had like the plain green t-shirt and rolled up jeans and glasses and her hair in a ponytail and no makeup and very serious. Yeah, nothing wrong with it, but it's just that view that she's very traditional. And what I see happening in this new phase, not just you guys, but with a lot of the women in this circle, sort of the kind of the counterparts to the geeks and gamers or the nerdrotics. There's this woman's view that's starting to arise that I really find intriguing because it's more closer to how I identify, even though I'm older. It's the way I identify myself. And so I thought, I would really be interested in talking to you guys, not just about, how did you get to know each other, how the show, but kind of what brought you to where you are in terms of your view. I have no idea if that's interesting to you, but it interests me, so who cares, right?
No, I actually love this because I think that, when people think of maybe not specifically Tugs and I, but a lot of the females in the space, they get called conservative or traditional values. And maybe some are, which is fine. It's great. But I don't think specifically, at least myself, I would say I have traditional values, or I would consider myself conservative.
And I think also traditional values for someone who maybe grew up in a traditional Chinese household might be different than the values of someone who grew up in sort of a liberal suburban household. Mm-hmm. So, just coming to that definition in and of itself is kind of an interesting idea. And that's why this is sort of my definition, not necessarily a definition. But I do see that there is a feminism related to this. And it's more second wave. It's not whatever the crazy shit is that women do now.
The most recent one.
Exactly. Because it is, so from my perspective, and this isn't about me, but just so you kind of understand, I grew up in the 80s and I was early in the 90s. I got married. I went to college. Well, actually, I went to college, got my degree, got married, bought a house, had kids. But at the same time, I've been a really successful professional in my field. I make a really good income. I've provided for a lot of things. I've been able to create retirement for myself and my family. So Kelly and I together are very complementary. But my viewpoint is still, it's going to be considered conservative, but it's not it's not kind of that red pill conservative. It's which I now understand what that means. But it's also not the crazy.
I'm so sorry. You know what that means.
It's like the red pill conservatives, your only function is to have children. Okay, great. And then there's the other side of it where the Secretary of Health here in the United States referred to women as egg producers. Like, oh wow, I'm a chicken. Right on.
Yay.
Yeah, birthing person.
So there's got to be somewhere in between.
Yeah.
I think a lot of women and men just in general fall in between these polar opposites, and
especially nowadays, I think, even 30 years ago, it was probably not so much. We fall into different categories. We probably did fall into pretty specific ones. Women are women and we do these women things, and men are men and they do these women things with maybe some little gray area, but we've gotten so gray over even my lifetime. It's been wild to watch that we don't really fit into a box anymore, which is both cool and frustrating, I think, especially for us girls. I think women as a whole, just in general, we've all lost our way a little bit, and we're trying to get back to what we are naturally without, the feminism movement, without sacrificing certain things that the feminism movement originally was like, listen, we want to be able to do this stuff too. Like, we're not lesser than you. And I think that that's kind of spiraled out of everything. So now nobody knows what anything is anymore. The men can't be men, or they don't know how to be men anymore because we've stepped up and are like, I can chop my own wood. Thank you so much. And it's just like, we women don't know really how to be around. I have so many girlfriends, like growing up, like we liked kids, but we didn't really know how to be around them. We did stupid stuff, you know, as we grew up and were around our nieces and nephews and our younger brothers and sisters. And it was kind of like, unless you grew up in that environment, you had no idea. Like kids, I'm fine with it, but also what do I do? Like how do I hold this kind of thing? And that confuses us. And it's just, we're all confused. It's too much gray and not enough black and white now, in my personal opinion.
And I think that's part of what I see emerging, because that existed for me as well. I was never around kids. So when I had my first kid, I look forward to it now.
Oh, I do.
It's not quite the inherent knowledge that you think it is. You know, these little people, just because I'm a mom and I have, I called it a bonus all, doesn't mean I actually know what I'm supposed to do when I use it.
Yeah.
So
sorry. I love that you just used that. Oh my god.
It was Frank, I think, on here who said that.
Oh, yeah. Sarah Tano, have so much fun on your ghost tour. Please try and capture a ghost with your camera, not with your soul. Make sure to do a Hail Mary before, no possessions. All right.
Yeah, don't bring it home.
Yeah, don't bring it home.
This is not the haunted mansion. You do not want that haunt. It's not a happy haunt.
Nope. No, I actually know someone who something similar happened to, and she had to tell them to go home. So don't bring it home.
Well, that's freaky.
Yeah, I want to do like a tour and do the haunted stuff. We're off the rails now, and like a paranormal investigation. I think that'll be fun. But also, knowing my luck, I'd bring it home with me, and I just don't need that baggage. Okay, I got my own baggage. I don't need your dead baggage.
No, you don't. In this case, one of her neighbors had a massive heart attack and died, and her husband's an EMT. So she went next door with her husband. And then when they got home, her husband had to go fill out the paperwork. And she said all the stuff started moving in her house, and she could hear all those noises. And she called me, and I said, okay, just go downstairs and say, I understand you're afraid. I understand, but you have to leave. You can't stay here. And she did, and it stopped.
Oh, thank goodness.
But yeah, you got to be.
Like I get some demon, like in The Exorcist or something, and I would have to.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want your head.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Groceries are already expensive enough. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Especially when they waste them and throw them around.
Yeah, right. Can you not throw my groceries around? Thank you so much. Like, leave the fridge.
I need
closed.
to
eat.
Exactly. Yeah. So what I thought I would do to structure the conversation is kind of just start out with you guys, and instead of just jumping into modern feminism and what the hell, kind of start out with. So I went back and watched, in preparation for this, I went back and watched a lot of the earlier shows. And it looked like this show started out as a reaction show to like people being stupid in reality TV.
Reality television.
We should really still bring that back every now and then, because I kind of miss it. I know BB misses it.
I know. Yeah, because we had a chat in Vegas, I believe it was. And we're like, we both like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Why don't we just make a show where we get to drink wine and talk about an episode that happened? So,
because I love all the nerdy stuff. Don't get me wrong. I could talk about Star Wars for hours, but sometimes you just got to sit down with your wine and popcorn or cheese and whatever and just be like, and I thought my life was bad.
Yeah. We always felt better watching a reality show about our lives.
Oh, that's funny. So is that how did you guys get to know each other?
Geeks and Gamers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Geeks and Gamers. Yeah. We kind of started talking to each other on the Mario Kart streams that go on every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
The chat knows the story very
love for Mario Kart.
A big love for Mario Kart. And I actually had to Mark beat me to it, but she and I really connected over the fact that one night, Mark, I'm calling you out again. I know you're sick of hearing this, but one night, Mark, and it was so late, he was so tired.
And because I used to play Mario Kart. I played at the time, and we played on Discord, so we're not. So you can see the little bubbles. You can see our face, just our voices. And that night, I was going to work the next day, super early, so I wasn't there. I wasn't there at all. And so anyways, Tugsy, go on.
He was not there, but if you close your eyes, not so much now because you've seen us now, but back in the day, especially if you close your eyes and listen to us talk, like we sound especially over Discord, like we kind of sound alike. And so Mark had cut in front of me his little chibi Tanuki Mario in front of me, and he took my question mark box, like my box. And I was like, Mark, you stole my box. And he goes, sorry, babe. And I was like, so I was going to ignore it. I dial this all the time.
There's a video of it.
There's a video of it. I skipped over it. I was like, I'm not going to say anything. Like, it's fine. Like, it's late. We're just going to ignore it. And Ryan, I probably about a good 30 seconds later was like, did you just call her babe? I was like, Ryan. Sound. No sound.
See, now you guys need to do this again. But you need to do it after you've had your wine.
Oh my God, it's so funny. Can we hear it? I can't hear it.
Sorry, babe. I can't hear it.
There we go.
Okay.
Freaking. Oh yeah, Ryan was the only one on camera. That's right.
Mark, you took. So isn't that the one that I'm looking at is you, right?
It's so low. I can barely hear it.
Low. I can barely hear it too. And, so we're watching. So Ryan is the little car that we're watching, but you can hear us.
I can barely hear it.
You barely hear it.
Sorry, babe.
What? Sorry, babe.
Do you think that was X-ray girl?
You think that was X-ray girl?
Yeah, sorry. It was so quiet. I don't know why the volume is so low, but anyways, that was a fun time. Oh my God, Mark! Bye.
Yeah, so that's how. So Mark, the next day was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry" to her. And I was
yeah, he was awake when I woke up at like 6 a.m. and he was like, "I'm so sorry." I'm like,
"I did a bad thing."
For what? And he's like, "I called Tugs babe." I'm like, "Okay, why?" Because I thought it was your voice. I'm like, "I'm not gonna be mad at you."
Yeah,
accidentally calling someone babe on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then like the memes and like everything was going on. So we just kind of fell into that. And I honestly, you probably remember more than I do, but it just kind of spiraled from there. And then we met in Vegas and and then it just, we were up at 6 in the morning. And it was good.
And like, I think the females at the time at Geeks and Gamers were Tugs and Krista. And
that was really it.
It was really it. So, I mean, Krista's lovely. We hung out, but we didn't bond necessarily on reality television. So when we're like, oh my God, talking about like gossip about that stuff.
Yeah, and she was so much younger than us too. So it was like we're the old ladies of the group.
I understand that.
So it just was like we had so much fun and we were talking about everything. And we had shared a room that first year too. And
We had the airport meeting for the first time, running towards each other.
That McCarran Airport too. You were some interesting things there.
I forgot about Candace. I think she had just left or was getting ready to leave.
She was pregnant. I barely met her.
Yeah, she wasn't around for very long. Oh,
yeah.
So how did you become gamers? I mean, how did you get involved with Geeks and Gamers?
Oh, okay. Geeks and Gamers. Yeah, same thing, Mark. So I started dating him, met him through Tinder, and it all worked out. But he was like, I make videos. And I was like, videos are awesome. It's a form of art, and I appreciated that a lot. Well, yeah. Once he told me that type of videos, because if he said porn, I would have been like, no. He would have a very niche audience, I suppose, too.
I'm sure he would. Gamer porn. Yeah, I'm sure he would.
No, I meant the stump. Oh my God. That would be like a very, very niche audience. But anyways, so I found out about that and I was like, oh, I liked gaming. I stopped gaming at around like 23 because I wanted to concentrate on school. And ever since like meeting him, I started playing the games and then needed help with Geeks and Gamer stuff and then kind of really entrenched myself. I'm not a nerd. I was not a nerd per se starting into the world. I'd say more so now. Definitely a gamer now. I'm working on it. Okay.
And that's kind of one of the things that I saw is that's why I said there's this new very sexy nerd who's not just anime. So that's I'm talking about this kind of emergence of these new women who just not typical what it used to be when you had like I mean, it's still very male dominant. It's very masculine world. But I
Yeah.
do see these new women coming in, and a lot of you are gamers. So
Yeah.
Tugs, were you always a gamer? When did you start?
Yeah, no, I've been playing video games since I was little. My very first video game ever, if I'm remembering correctly, and this is debatable, was the Lion King Sega Genesis.
Okay.
Rage.
How old is that?
19. When did the Lion King come out? 95? Yeah. And then I played like Mario, the original Mario Kart and like Super Mario and all those. They all might overlap. I don't know. But that was, so I've been playing games, and then I played Call of Duty as I got older. An ex-boyfriend of mine got me into World of Warcraft. Love World of Warcraft. Things like that. I was never like super serious about it, you know, as far as like, oh, I have to get all the achievements, like do all the crazy stuff or anything like that. But I've always played video games. And then I've always been a big nerd. Star Wars has been my thing since I grew up hearing it from my father because he was there. He got to see Star Wars in theaters, which I love hearing to tell the story. And so like the original. And so he was like, I'll never forget it because it was this revolutionary thing. And the whole theater standing up, like throwing their sodas at Darth Vader, like boo, like all this crazy stuff. So, like I blame him, and he refuses to take responsibility, but he also takes responsibility for one, not only my Star Wars obsession, but my old obsession with going to movies like on their release days at midnight, the midnight release. Oh my God, that was so much fun because of the stories he would tell me, and we would all laugh together, we'd all cry together, we'd all boo together, like whatever it was. You had 200 people with you for the first time seeing these movies. It's such an experience. I love it. But so Star Wars has always been my thing, and then I grew up with the Batman animated series, so I got into that, Batman and Superman, and that's, you know, so I was a nerd coming into it.
So you have full street nerd cred.
Yeah.
And that's a
real nerd.
Becoming a nerd.
I'm a real nerd.
Yeah, nerd in training or nerd Padawan.
I want nice.
So I would say I was like I've always been a nerd, but I've always been able to kind of keep it quiet because and where I work. But being surrounded by IT guys, you get a lot of dates if you're a girl nerd. Seriously.
I was gonna say they would probably love hearing.
would
Oh my
love
God,
that.
we work with a girl who loves this sort of stuff. Like, because like
I mean, I never played Magic the Gathering, but
me neither. I never got into that either.
Board games kind of what they were into. But I mean, I grew up. I did see Star Wars in the theater. I was a kid. But my father, and when I think of it now, my dad seemed so old when I was a kid, but he was probably in his early 30s, and he took us 3 nights in a row. He loved it so much. It was such a big deal.
Star Wars is life.
And so they're Star Wars, Star Trek, because my grandfather liked Star Trek, so we watched it when I was very little. So the original Star Trek, and even Next Gen, which I didn't like as much.
Me neither.
Doctor Who, I knew Doctor Who because of that whole world, so I knew that Doctor Who universe. But the original Doctor Who's, the newer ones, I'm not as fond of.
That's fair.
But so I had that experience. I'm trying to remember. There were TV shows. I don't know if you guys have probably never heard of. There were 70 shows that were showing a rerun. There was one called Land of the Lost that I loved. That's like way nerd. We could go back in time with the Slee Stack. Maybe.
Oh
some
my
people
God, the original Land of the Lost was the best.
Chat might know that, but yeah, that was a really fun show. I used to watch it every chance I had. So I kind of grew up in that same nerd universe, but I was more like a closet nerd, I guess, and then I didn't really want to admit it. But then when I got into IT, I was surrounded by nerds, and then I married kind of a really big nerd who hides it really well, because Kelly's actually a really poised kind. He's a really good speaker. He's a good presenter. You know, he doesn't. But if you get him started on something he loves, like let's go talk Conan or something, he can totally geek out on it.
Yeah,
and I
saw that. It was crazy.
That's the way I was. I would hide it. I mean, not hide it, but it would be something to where it's like I knew all this stuff, and I would just be in a room, and you would hear people talk, and I would jump in with something. And I am a big behind the scenes person, so I would jump in with like a fun fact, and they would be like,
you know that.
I love that though. Like it's a great surprise because you never know. Like I had a patient, and we talked like anime stuff because he pulled out his wallet, which was Dragon Ball Z, and I was full conversation. It was so great, and he was so happy.
You never know who you're
I was in a meeting once. It was a really awkward meeting. It was mostly guys, and one of the guys who came in was just kind of a goofball. I don't know how to describe it, but he was a goofball of authority. So it was important that I relate to this guy. And I said something rather than the guy says, "Well, I grok that." And the guy next to him starts explaining, like, no, I understand. I read that book. It's cool. I know what he's talking about. It's a Heinlein book. So, and it's like, oh my God. So I was actually able to get all the things I needed because I had that one little geeky, I know what that means kind of moment.
I love that.
It helps randomly. I mean, maybe not so much anymore because I think it's become really mainstream. But you know, growing up in the 90s and even up until Avengers really became like a thing, the movies, I mean, it was one of those niche things that you could really like as a single girl, I would use it to like, oh, this guy's cute. Let's see, what is he wearing or whatever. I would use it to like, hey, I know this fun fact, or that's not what happened. And they'd be like, what? This girl knows this. And I never once was like bullied for it. I never once, like, you hear these stories now of all these girls. Oh, I was an outcast. Like never. I used to hold my own. I played the Call of Duty lobbies. I've heard every gamer word in the book. You know, it's fine. Like it's okay.
Yep.
But yeah. So that's nerd cred. And then Geeks.
So we got one true nerd. We've got one nerd, one emerging nerd. And you guys got to know each other through gaming, which is pretty nerdy. And you're surrounded by a bunch of other guys, so you kind of bond just because the two of you were to talk shoes. No one's gonna make fun of you.
Which we do. Talk about
exactly. I hope so, because you're girly.
It is nice. It is nice to be like, I bought way too much on Shein.
you know what? I will say the girliness didn't actually set in mentally until someone had to break it to me that I was girly. Because I grew up with two brothers. I was, fighting a lot, sports, all this stuff. But because I did aesthetics, that kind of balanced it out. But I didn't take that as my primary characteristic, personality, and all that. And my girlfriend goes, "You don't think you're girly? Did you look at your bathroom?" And this was at 24. And of course, I have all the products and my makeup and all this for when I actually want a girl out. That doesn't happen often, but I want to take care of my skin. I think it's a very Asian thing to be like, I want to stay young. So
I would say it's Asian. I would say it's womany.
Yeah. And so I think that once that broke, I was like, yes, I'm a girl. I'm a girly girl. Crap. I was hoping to be a tomboy for a long time, but it settles in after a while.
Well, you were comfortable in the company of men, is what you're saying. Okay,
yes.
That's funny.
Yes,
I was. I had a lot of guy friends. I had more guy friends than girlfriends growing up. Yeah. And weirdly enough, like I'm super, and especially now, I think I fought it growing up. But I'm super girly now. Like I love the dresses. I've got,
you got your Barbie universe.
Yeah. The first quarter of Barbie was so good. And then it went all downhill from there. That's a whole nother topic. But anyway, I
saw that. I felt really bad for you when you were so excited for Barbie, and then it would just
was so sad.
Everybody
knew it. Once I saw the tweet, I was like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "No."
I want to send you flowers.
I wanted a Barbie movie. We all looked so cute in our pink outfits.
But it was really cute when we went to the theater where all the girls in their pink outfits. So all the girls being girly was really cute. They're all squealing.
Yeah, it reminds me of when like something like Star Wars, people would come, or like Harry Potter, people would come in their outfits.
All dressed up.
Their house clothes or whatever it is, and it's been a long time.
Yeah, I can't think of another movie right now where people, Comic-Con or something like that, where everybody's dressed up. Depending on which Comic-Con it is.
I'm trying to think. The last one I saw personally was Endgame. There were people that showed up in the theater, like their teams,
really?
And that was people showed up. At least at our theater, people showed up dressed as their hero, and like a couple of them went so far. It was almost like a Comic-Con because a couple of them went so far as to hold like a RIP, from the snap and all that, like whatever. It was cool. I mean, that was the midnight-ish release, like that premiere night. So I don't know how it was.
The party night.
It was cool. It was nice to see everybody all dressed up and we all look so cute. I love it when people get dressed up, especially as girls, when we embrace, like, especially in the modern world. I think the cool thing about Barbie, as much as I didn't like the movie, is it made a bunch of girls in general, women and little girls and medium girls and teens or whatever, be like, you know what? I can be sparkly and I can be pink and I don't have to be embarrassed about it. And the marketing for the movie, between the shoes, the luggage, the makeup, top notch.
The Airbnb.
Oh my God, I want to stay there so bad.
I know, it's so far away.
I know everything around it was really fun. And like I said, we went to see Oppenheimer at that time. And, they had the Barbie movie playing and all the girls were just, it was so cute watching them, the little girls and the adults and the moms. And it was really cute.
And we went to brunch afterwards. My friend Tina and I went, and we went to brunch afterwards. And of course, we're all very obviously not dressed, especially during the middle of the day. Like maybe if it was nighttime, people wouldn't have blinked an eye. And they're like, "Oh, did you guys just come from the Barbie movie? You look so cute." And I was like, "Yeah." My sister was like, "Did you like it?" And I was like, "No,
Proudly.
no." She's like,
"The movie sucked, but I had fun dressing up."
I did. That was the fun part. So I think that's a testament to, like, and I've said this for years, like the rom-coms, we stopped making them. Remember they used to come out like twice a year for forever. I don't know what the last one was, but we stopped making them over the years, like true rom-coms. And I think that the Barbie movie, in a way, is a tell, or should be a tell to Hollywood at some point. They're like, hey, maybe we should start bringing some girly movies back, movies where, and now this one ended up being political, but the hype around it was, we get to go be fun, we get to go be girly, we get to turn our brains off and not have to worry about it. And there were stuff in the movie that I was like, oh, like she's pretending to drink out of the cup and she's fake brushing her hair, and like it was just so cool. And
floating down the stairs. That was really
floating down the stairs.
So anyway, we were that's kind of gets me to kind of where we're going though. So basically, you guys both have this very girly love, but you're also sort of embedded in this kind of masculine world where they seem to adore you for being girly. Everybody loves to have a little sister who's really cute, and like all their friends think she's cute, but no one dates anybody's little sister. You know what I mean? So, but they're also really, really respectful for all of their goofy jokes and innuendos.
Absolutely. I have to say, like, especially on that aspect, people have been so great and so nice about that. Like they, I don't know if it's because they knew with me coming in, taken already, or if it's, I'm always surrounded by, I say this in a nice way, but like Ryan, Gary, and Jeremy could look like at meetups if they wanted to, but whatever it is, people are very nice, and I've never had any issues where it's like, oh, I feel like, oh,
yeah, they don't make you uncomfortable.
So
me neither. Now that I'm thinking about it, me neither. Even as a single one.
When you guys decided to do your own show, which is not geek related at all, it's not nerd show at all, was it kind of just to, and I think you said this, is sort of basically to get you away from that kind of super masculine, to have another girl to talk to about the commentary? But the show has evolved, at least from my perspective. It has evolved from the initial reactions where, you're just kind of riffing on goofy people, to a lot more serious topics, like the one you had when you had the girl who was helping the other girls with who've been trafficked. So there's this real evolution that's kind of happened in your show. How did that? What sort of happened to cause you to start to evolve? Was it organic, or was it a decision?
It was organic and slightly a decision, because we, so much like a lot of the entertainment that we see currently, I felt the Bachelorette was starting to become very calculated, very on the, I wouldn't even say the woke side of things, because like a little bit, but not directly. And I mean, I love the people who they picked for their like Black bachelorettes, but it
for you, Rachel.
Tugs has a hate for Rachel, but I think that it wasn't as entertaining anymore. It was almost about the drama, which I guess formulaic. And I really,
Yeah.
I wanted love stories, and it just wasn't enough to like keep captivated because it felt very repetitive. Like it was almost like you knew what was going to happen within the next few weeks.
Yeah.
And
So the rom-com that we just talked about. Yeah.
the last season that we reviewed was Rachel and Gabby's, and it felt like a competition between women yet again, because you're splitting the guys up and they have to choose between who they like. And I'm like, okay, this is enough. I thought this was about love. It doesn't feel love. It feels very competition like.
And it was the same guys. Like they didn't interview separately. Like, are you here? You know, they didn't take 30 guys for Gabby, who's a very different person, both physically and personality wise, and say, okay, out of you 30 guys, you 15 are going to compete just for Gabby. And then over here, Rachel, you 15 they had the same 30 guys vying for both of them. So, and naturally, it's not the guy's fault. It's not the girl's fault. It's not anybody's fault. But if you come for one, you may find that you don't connect with one. So then you're going after the other. Well, they're best friends. That destroys, at a minimum, that destroys that relationship forever. You know what I mean? And that's
which is the intent, right? The intent is to create that conflict.
Awful. We felt so bad for them. And we had started the channel, you know, as kind of a way of, we had talked about it and it was like, well, I love this, so let's just do it. But it has turned into, and it did with the Bachelorette stuff too, a little bit, it was different. You know, everybody in our sphere, which is not bad, but everybody in our sphere is either talking politics or entertainment, Hollywood stuff. Those are really the two topics. You don't see anybody coming out and being like, I got this really cool cup. You know, maybe Krista. Krista's really, you know, Krista would do that stuff. But as far as the main channels go, it was either the politics or the Hollywood entertainment stuff. And there was really and we were kind of like, I'm over it. And I love these guys, but we were kind of thinking of our own thing. And so we were like, you know what, we love this. Let's try this and see what happens. And then it just naturally evolved into, you know, the Bachelorette. I had some personal stuff go on, and that led into us, you know, kind of finding out about the red pill and the Manosphere stuff. And then just kind of went like a snowball. It snowballed. And
it's still dealt with relationships from even just the Bachelorette, because we would put our input in what we've experienced and thought about what's going on in that aspect. And okay, now we're going to talk about this and this and this. So when we find out about, like, because during this switch over of our like content, I'd say just Pearly Things was starting to really rise. And of course we took notice, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, she's talking a lot of truth, but she's also spouting a lot of
vitriol.
She's very mean-spirited. I'd like to say.
I don't know when that happened. She didn't used to be that. I'm like, she was a little mean, but she wasn't.
It was like entertaining somewhat, but then it was very repetitive. That like mean-spiritedness that she had for women, and she held men up as if they couldn't do no wrong, which it's fine. But I think that if we're looking at even just feminism, it's almost like the opposite. But I don't know what that word is that they're doing over there, at least on her show.
I don't know.
And Fresh and Fit, sorry, they're really mean to a lot of women there. Sometimes it's deserved, okay. Sometimes it's deserved, but a lot of times it just felt like they just want to embarrass people.
Well, there is a lot of that type of thing, though. There's a lot of shows. I actually didn't watch a lot of stuff for. Sorry, my cat came in. I didn't watch a lot of that stuff for a long time. Hang on.
Are we about to match cats?
This is my cat. This is Kim.
Oh my god! I need a kitty now.
Saying hello. If I don't do this, she won't stop.
Oh, she's so pretty.
Yeah, she's my princess.
She's very pretty. Oh my gosh, she's big too.
Say hi, Bruce.
Yours is much friendlier than mine. Mine is like, no, I want what I want when I want it, and I want you to get off that thing and come do whatever I want.
Oh my gosh, Lynn. Wait until Bruce gets a haircut. It's so funny.
You know what's weird? He has not needed one. Fingers crossed. But the lion cut him because he gets tangled in the winter.
Yeah, you get the mats.
But this is Bruce Wayne, and his sister is Selena Kyle, and then I have Nightwing. So I have a little bat family going on over here.
I love it.
Are you just gonna say
oh,
I might just gonna sit here and howl, so hopefully she won't come.
It's all good. We're used to it between
I'm
my
surprised
dogs
Selena's not
barking,
here. Usually Selena's up here walking back and forth, and I got
showing her butt to the camera.
Yeah,
awful every
yeah, my
time.
cats do that. Yeah, just so you know who I am. Here's my butt. Yeah,
Yep.
It's a cat thing.
Oh, I love it. I love it. But yeah, what were we talking about? The evolution
So
of
we're
the
just talking
show.
about the evolution of the show, where it went from being reaction to being more social commentary.
Yeah, and I think that like once we figured out like okay, we want to just talk about relationships, and we're seeing this rise of the Manosphere red pill being more popularized because and it just I learned about that and I was so excited. You know, back in January, I was like being like red pilled. I love that. I love that. And then now I'm like, no, I don't. I've learned too much already. And I feel like I'm kind of in the middle as with a lot of things in my life. And I mean, I don't want to think of myself as the average normie, but if I talk to people, most people don't think about this type of stuff. They just do their thing, and usually they're somewhere in the middle, maybe a little left and maybe a little right, but it takes a very different type of person to be very extreme, and it's usually the people on the internet.
Yeah,
I was
well,
gonna say that the internet's a
so
great
much
home
too.
for the extreme.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, repeat that.
I'm sorry. I was just saying it changed so much too from when, you know, we started talking about that stuff. It was kind of like, oh my gosh, like this is like even stuff we would wake up to and be like, oh my God, he's so right or whatever. It's evolved just in since what, January, February of this year. It's evolved so much that even now, like there's so many people that weren't involved in that world before or even thought about it that are involved now simply because it's gotten so
big,
petty and big and petty. Like these guys have turned into just nasty people, and it's not you know, Pearl has gotten her, I think she's going through a crisis. I feel you, girl. But I just everybody on all sides has just gotten so petty. There was you know, all these fights on the internet going on within that group. It's just like what happened? Like, thought we were trying to help people, and now you guys are revealing.
Well, that was the thing. That was the problem that I was having, because if you watch the like Fresh and Fit and Pearl, I never watched Kevin Samuels much, so you'd have to correct me on this because he passed away. He was another big like I believe he's Manosphere. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I'm not 100% sure. But they would present the problem, but my issue after like weeks and weeks of hearing this was like, what is the solution? Because you're telling me women suck. We're, you know, we are too demanding. We're slutty on the internet. We want to be equals and have all this equality. So it was just fair. Like there are people that are like that. But what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to better ourselves? Because I don't feel it. And I don't hear it.
Yeah. And there was never, at least in my opinion, and not that I've seen, and I don't mean to like turn against this whole group as a whole, but it's just so frustrating because they bring up these things where it's, well, women are this and women are that. Well, yes. And when we as a whole, modern feminism are, I see where they're coming from. It's a big brainwashing thing that's been going on since I was little and longer. It's whatever the argument is, but they don't have a solution for it. Instead, the solution is the MGTOW movement, which is men going their own way, which is use women and lose them because they're not worth it anyway. They don't get married. They don't want children. They don't want, I'm like, how is that solving anything? Like you're just contributing to the problem at that point. Not all of them, but the ones that are like, well, I'm just going to use the women anyway because they're worth nothing. Well, then that circles back to women having relationship trauma that you can't stand. Like what? Hello? What's going on here? So
it almost feels like a weird reactionary support group to guys who've been burned.
No, it's exactly that. It is.
Do you know what I mean? It's like a group of, you know, they used to get around and just drink. But they get together on the internet and they complain about the bad responses or the bad situations they've been in and how they've been done wrong. And they make these sort of sweeping gestures about women that, women make sweeping gestures about men. But then you're right, after a while, and I think, like I said, this kind of goes back to that emerging, this woman I see emerging out of this whole culture. After a while, especially if you're a professional, if you deal with people in any kind of way, you get kind of tired. You're whining. You're like, okay, I'm not your garbage can. If you want to keep throwing trash away, find someone else.
Yeah.
Like, I'm cool. If you want to solve the problem, then yeah, let's figure it out. But it's kind of, it's like the women's support groups where all they do is cry. You get these kind of men, and then it turned into a profession. These red pill movements, kind of these professional guys who are just really, really cynical and dissatisfied, and they found a bunch of other guys where they could get together and bash women. The He-Man, what was it called? The Little Rascals had the He-Man Woman Haters group.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of, then I think, LA has so many actors who have nothing to do, so they found a niche where, okay, well, I can move into this and I can play these roles. And so they would bring in women who would play, or they do bring in women, at least they appear that way to me, who play these roles of being, the silly bimbo that they all can make fun of. And it feels staged. There doesn't feel like, okay, I know some of you guys really believe this, and some of you are just, you're uncurable, but a lot of this just feels staged because we don't have any place else to express something, so we're going to manufacture it.
Yeah.
And
I think that's where we started to, I'm sorry, I cut you off. I'm so sorry.
No, please. That was kind of,
I think that's where we ended up going with it, because at first it was kind of like, oh my God, we have to talk about this because we just discovered this is crazy. We never thought about it this way. And then now, as we've watched more and more, and we've watched some people in the sphere change, or not change, but maybe gotten more vocal about their true opinions or whatever. She and I, like, we tend to fall in the middle. She has way more world experience than I do, but we both have different experiences, and we both have different mindsets. Like, I have, gone back to God over the last couple of years, and she's not quite as religious. And so we have that different mentality of it, but I can't necessarily judge these girls either. I can say my opinion and be like, listen, don't do it, whatever. But I was there, or maybe she was there. And so we have this really middle ground for it. And what I like about that is we'll talk about stuff and we'll have our perspectives, or we'll say, we'll watch it and we'll have our piece, and the guys in the chat will kind of be like, oh, well, that's refreshing to hear, because all I think of is these girls that are this way and they only have this mind. So for me, and I don't know about what your thoughts are, Extra Girl, but for me, it's kind of like, it's okay. Like, not, yes, women as a whole, we're a hot mess right now, but so are the men. But women are as a hot mess. Like, the whole society as a whole is a hot mess, but it can be fixed. And I think that being so anti one way, whether that's so anti-man as a feminist, or so anti-women as a MGTOW, Manosphere, red pill, whatever label you want to put yourself, but whatever box you want to put yourself into, is not the way. I think that there's a common ground somewhere that we can meet up and fix it. It may take 30 years, but I think it can be fixed. And I think that it starts with people like me and X-Ray Girl, where we talk about these things and we go, oh my God, girl, what are you doing? But we're also not like, I judge you and condemn you to hell. I just say, girl, what are you doing? No, because
I think a lot of people put their issues on others, and
you project,
absolutely, you don't want to blame yourself as the person that caused the issues, because in the end, if you hook up, for example, with a playboy, or not playboy, what are they called? F-boy, sorry. It's a playgirl. F-boy. And he leaves you, guess what? You knew he was an F-boy. Yep. That is your fault. Yeah. And it's the same thing.
You can't change him, ladies.
Kind of the same thing with the guys, right? These men keep picking the same dumbass women who are the same exact characteristics, and then they keep expecting a different outcome, and then they come and they say, okay, all women are shallow and incapable of depth of emotion, and they're stupid and all this other stuff. Like, well, why do we keep picking them?
One thing that really, we covered this a couple episodes ago, but the text exchange when that guy broke up with the surfer girl, what's his face?
Oh, Jonah Hill.
He wanted her to be a very traditional person. He started dating her when she had these very sexy bikini photos of her surfing. I think that's unrealistic to expect her to take it down, all of it. Some of the stuff was a bit like not very sexual, but at the same time, I feel like I understand what she's going through too. So it's like these perceptions people are having, you're creating unrealistic expectations. If you want this type of person, date that type of person. Find out, even just if it's just through Instagram, does that person have the stuff that you want? The three main things I always say: kids, location, and religion. Do they have those three things at the very least? Those are the biggest the biggest deal breakers.
Biggest minimum, yeah.
And then go from there. But I think a lot of people are just like, oh, hot girl, hot guy.
Well, there's that shallow, but this is kind of an interesting note, because I follow your chat usually on your shows, because I've always find the reactions really funny, and half the time I'm in there making stupid comments.
We love it.
But a lot of your chat are male. I
Yes.
you guys to see that. There's a lot of men who follow your shows, and I'm guessing they probably some of them followed you over on Geeks and Gamers, because that's where they got to know you. Do you think, and maybe it's a question for the chat as well, hearing healthy women, and I say normal because I would never qualify anyone as normal.
Nobody's normal.
But
Average.
hearing women who have those sorts of values, do you think it helps them to realize, okay, these women are out there, maybe they just need to work a little harder? You mean because your audience is male, what kind of message do you think you would give to them, or you are giving to them?
Being realistic. I feel like that's what hopefully we project, but I think that people will.
And yes, I did just assume your gender. Sorry, guys.
No, but I think being realistic is a huge part of it. Like, Tugs and we've talked about, like, even just like the idea that we don't feel we're like a 10 out of 10. We're like between 4 to 7 depending on the day. Like I want to say we're very average, and mentally wise, we're not average. I think that we've had a lot of experience. We are older than probably a lot of the people would want to date, and that's okay because guess what? With experience comes a better mind, and hopefully more rational mind, because when you're young, like we've seen a lot of young people make really crazy mistakes. Maybe we've gone through some of those mistakes. Why is that such a bad thing? We see Red Pill saying like, oh, if a girl has over like 2 body count, they're trashy or whore, or I don't know.
Yeah,
I wish I had gotten into this mindset younger. But I was raised by a single mom, and so that was that dichotomy where it was like, well, I want to be a stay-at-home mom and have kids, and supposedly my mom did too, but here she is divorced and raising. So it's like, did you, like, where is the catalyst there? Is that his fault? Is that her fault? It's always a he said, she said, and you get into that mentality. And so if I could go back, I would smack myself around and be like, don't listen and do what you want. But it's worked out. I've been so blessed personally, despite my trials and mistakes and the bad things and the good things that I've done. I have a really amazing passed out man over there. And it's
if you're serving him drinks in that thing, I can see why.
Yeah. Well, and like one thing that like super sticks out with everyone is when we say, what is the average your person needs to make?
Oh, God.
We hear women say 6 figures. Unrealistic. Absolutely unrealistic. Remember the show we were on? You said,
I think I said 50. I think it was 50K.
I think I said around 60K, which is like still pretty high.
Everybody at the table, all the girls, except for the married one. There was a married one that she does OnlyFans with her husband now, but she was a little bit older. I think she was in her 40s, and she was the only other one that was like, oh yeah, no, that's reasonable. Every other girl at the table looked at us like we had 3 heads. I was like, oh, are we about to get kicked
sorry?
I think, as you said, they looked at you because you said that 50K was your
would be okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, the question
what I
was
think I
like,
hear you
what's the
saying,
minimum?
what
Yeah.
what I think, excuse me, what I think I hear you saying is that you want a man who clearly, who works, who has an income, because you don't want to carry a sorry ass around, but he doesn't have to have such an income that he has to take care of you, that you, I mean, that's kind of what I hear when I hear someone say 50K or something. It means you want someone who's dedicated to earning a living,
Mhm.
or to having a passion that they're working toward, or something along those lines. So it's not so much a number, but an idea of what that number represents. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because I
Yep.
mean, when you make a certain amount of money, and listen, I'm not knocking these girls. I think everybody, man, woman, child, whoever, would like to be able to be like, you know what? It's 4 p.m. on a Thursday. I'm going to fly to Greece and have some champagne on the way. Okay, nobody in their right mind is going to say
Nobody
no
does
to
that.
that kind of lifestyle. Okay,
No.
let's be honest.
Depends on the guy, and all the guys that usually
Well, right.
do that are
That has more
easy.
problems. That
I've
comes
met.
with a guy that works 30 bazillion hours a week that you'll never see.
Mhm.
No. Mm-mm.
I want someone who's
Well,
just average like me.
someone who's your companion rather than your
Mhm.
caretaker. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can take care of myself. I want to take care of you, and I'm sure you want to take care of me, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle.
Yep. I say that, of course, as I fully plan on quitting my job and becoming a stay-at-home wife.
Yeah, and I say this as I see Mark is starting to play Baldur's Gate. Hi, honey.
I don't want to hear any more of that stuff.
Oh, but it's just wild to see how the evolution of dating. I
Mhm.
mean, in my early 20s, which was like, oh my god, a decade ago, to now, it seems like a vast difference, but it wasn't really that long ago.
But it's such a hi, Mike. It's such a disconnect. I feel like, and I was born in 87. So I grew up in the 90s, and then the 2000s, I was in my teens, like, I was 14 when 9/11 hit. So that was 2001. And then so I've like
Mhm.
seen it all, I feel like, quote unquote, in a way, because we were not raised on technology, but then we kind of were raised
Mhm.
on technology.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then technology went just overnight one day, and all of us were like, what do we do with this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? And the younger generations, that's all they know. Like, it's
Yeah.
wild. I
My sons are like
I
that.
had a
Yeah.
3-year-old niece that could program my computer. She's 3.
Yep.
Like, why? What is
Yeah.
going on? Go outside, touch
Yeah.
grass. It's okay.
But that's the
And we
thing. A
saw
lot
it.
of people don't know how to live without technology.
Which is
And
sad.
I had a weird podcast moment when I was listening to one of my like ones I listen to, but this woman said, when you're in bed and you are on your phone scrolling, it's as if you have all those people as you're scrolling in bed with you. Would you do that if they were actually in person? No.
Yeah.
But it kind of is like that as you're responding to tweets and
Yes.
Instagram and all that.
Yep.
It's exact, and that's why you are a bit more stressed, because you're
Yep.
bringing that stress to bed
And
as
you're not
well.
sleeping because you're bringing all of that into your brain at that time.
Mhm.
Oh, I was going to say, like, forget the people aspect of it, but these radiation things that come off, what is it that come off? Like, it's so bad for you to be on your phone right before you go to bed and right when you wake up. Like, I
Mhm.
try not do
Yes.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just as I'm brushing my teeth, I like keep my phone down. And
It's better to stare at a wall than look at your phone,
Mhm.
is what I got from
Depends
that
on the wall,
podcast.
I think.
It maybe depends on the wall, but like a blank wall. We'll say a blank wall.
So here's a
Oh.
question, because I come from a slightly different group of women. Yeah, I mean, yes, we were older, but I was successful in my 30s. So what do you say to a woman who is making a 6-figure income, but she's single? Now, I make a 6-figure income, but I wasn't single. So but I have friends in this position. What do you say to those women who are looking for someone else? Does the male have to be in the same range as them in terms of income? Or, if you are dating someone who has lesser income, what do you think? I mean, where do you think that falls out?
I'll be gonna
Is it a
leave
weird
that
question?
to go first because I gotta process that for a second.
I think there's this inherent need for women to want to be taken care of. And in this day and age, it's not physical, it is financial. And it takes a good, if you date someone that makes less income, it can work. It really can, but it depends on the type of person that you date and the respect that you have and the communication that you have between the two of you. Because it is tough, because there are some people that I have seen that disrespect their husband because they make less than them or significantly less. And they use that as a means of controlling them. So it can work. It's one of the rare things, but I wouldn't say it's impossible.
So kind of what I've seen is women who have been that level of success, if they're not married to or involved with people at the same level of success as they are, it's almost like they earn themselves out of that whole aspect of their lives. It's almost being punished for being successful because we've been forced to trade. Now, again, not my experience, because I was with a very supportive guy who has been very successful on his own, and to his own tune. But I do know these women who have sort of priced themselves out of being able to have that kind of more girly, feminine aspect to their lives, because they can't find. A lot of men, I think, and still feel kind of weird about a woman making more than them. And I don't know if that's still true with young people, but I know up into people like in the mid 30s and up, that's still kind of a weird thing for them.
I definitely think it's a weird thing when you are dating. So if we're going to kind of just ignore the people that take advantage of that situation, the gold digging men.
Well, yeah, you always have the sugar mamas and the sugar daddies.
And we're talking about just average Joe with a woman who makes six figures to $1 million.
Well, I don't make six figures, but I make more than my guy does right now.
And it's just, it all depends on the honesty between you guys and how you figure things out, because you can do it. I think it doesn't work most of the time, because either the male feels not masculine, or the woman controls and is the masculine role.
Yeah. It is frustrating for us, I think, in general. Of course, there's exceptions. Don't come for me. But I think in general, it frustrates us as women that, like, what do you mean I have to keep doing this? Why do I have to be this person? Why do I have to keep my career and you get to do whatever? I think there's an underlying, not always, obviously, again, don't come for me. But I think as a general rule, we, as a whole, we get to the point, at least from my experience, from what I've seen, is we get to a point where we kind of resent them because we think they're lazy. They're not lazy.
Yes.
Depending on their career, that may all be all that is what it is. Now, if your guy's like chilling on the couch, that's different, obviously. But if he's in a career where that's all they make, there's nowhere else for him to go in that particular career. But you're making more than him. There's this weird mindset that we put ourselves into where it's like, well, why is he so lazy? And it may not be we put ourselves into it. It may be we surround ourselves with our girlfriends, our moms, our stepmothers, our aunts, or whatever, that are like, oh my God, he's so lazy. I can't believe you worked 90 hours a week as a lawyer, which is a minimum, but I chose to be a lawyer. But you're working 90 hours a week and making all this money, and he's, a blue collar, whatever, and he gets to go home at 5 every day. What a lazy POS. I can't believe you're still with him. And that gets into our head, because women are very easily manipulated. We really are. We get into our brains all the time. And then that becomes a problem. So if you are the breadwinner as a girl, I think as a woman, you need to sit down with yourself and be like, am I going to be okay with this? What happens if I find this man and he's the love of my life and I choose him as my partner and we get married and we want kids? Am I okay with quitting my job? And if I am okay with quitting my job, am I able to step back and say, okay, I don't need $1,600 a month for my hair. I don't need to do these things. Am I okay with doing that? Because if you're not, and you want want to
Yeah.
go with him at some point, then that's just gonna crumble and crumble and crumble.
Because a lot of people, a lot of women, we'll just say this in this example, they live within their means at that time. And I think when we want to look at what you actually need, do you need your nails? Do you need your hair? Do you need the clothes? Do you need that car? Things like that. Just like extraneous things that are not required to function, to live. Then you have to figure out, okay, what do we need to cut back on? Okay, should we move to a smaller like town? Should we like cut back on some of these like extra expensives that are not gonna actually help us live? A lot of people can't come to terms with that.
Yeah, they don't want to do it. Like these girls you see on these podcasts, especially the my age ones, like 35 and up, they are always like, well, I'm not changing. I'm not going to sacrifice this. Why should I? And it's that mentality of being, and I've never fit into a workplace completely. So I can relate on the one hand, but I also can't relate because I've always wanted to not, like, I hate working for people. Like I'd rather work for my husband and kind of thing. And so I get where they're coming from because I am that age and I have been on my own for so long and I've made my own money and I can do whatever I want. The entire 2020 during the big beer bug, I literally was gone. I just was like, bye. Can I do that with a spouse? Not necessarily. Can I do that with children? Definitely not. And so it's like, do I want to give that up? The boss in me was like, no, I don't want to give that up. I'm not going to do that. That's my freedom. But now that I'm in that for sure this time, I'm like, oh yeah, no, absolutely. Every day I'm like, can I just quit my job? No, let's just
but that's the other thing. It's like when you look at even just the idea of childcare, a lot of people will defer to hired help. And I mean, if that works for you, great. But guess what? Being present in your children's lives really is important. And I even remember talking to you about like how you guys managed with your kids. And I do see when parents are more present in kids' lives, it really does change the outcome or personality in kids. So I feel like a lot of those power boss babes, you know, what will happen when you have to balance all that? Is that a conversation you've had with yourself or with your spouse to be or your spouse? Like these are very important things. Like
they're considerations. Yeah.
I thought about it, and like I have seen my parents who are actually like, they have worked so hard as immigrants in like Canada. They worked like really hard jobs, physically demanding jobs for us. I didn't appreciate it as a kid. I appreciate it much more as an adult. They were present for us, but more financially and hobbies. And I love them for that. I want to do that and actually be present with everything as well. That's going to be hard if I'm working as like a lawyer or I don't know, one of those like 6-figure jobs.
Yeah, I'm an IT consultant, so I understand. I'm an independent contractor at that, so I understand.
Yeah.
There's a thing though that I'm hearing that's and it's the pendulum. Someone mentioned pendulum earlier. So child of the 80s, growing up in the 80s, going to college in the 90s, that was kind of the emergence of the modern woman, if you will. That was, I mean, it was the Mr. Mom phenomenon. It was, women going back to women having careers and, the big shoulder pads and then all the big hair. And we have to be really serious. And so, just shout louder. It was kind of that next step in feminism. And so there was a pressure on my generation to have to be successful. So we have to have those jobs. We have to have that kind of place. And I was fortunate enough that I met someone who was very supportive of that. He used to call me Red 21, and that every time he'd roll the dice, Red 21 would come up, which was a really nice kind of feeling. But the trade-off of that for a lot of women was their kids aren't. I mean, because we were latchkey kids, so we raised ourselves. So they trade off, and their kids are being raised by other people. And then you saw the really huge rise in childcare and the childcare centers. And then there was this sort of overcompensation, And every kid had to have a trophy because the parents felt bad because they couldn't be there all the time. And so we had this sort of swing to where it's over. And now we have the young woman who it's almost like the narcissist generation who is taking the bad of all of that.
Yep.
I need to be strong and independent and have my own, but I want a guy who's going to make more than me so he can take care of me. So if I decide that I want to do something, I can just go do it. But I'm going to have disregard because it's kind of what you said. Well, I've been my way and this is the way it's going to be. And that lack of compromise comes in because they've always just sort of been given whatever they wanted. And then you have on the other side of that, the men who've been really sort of disenfranchised and sort of pushed away, and girls power, and there's no really boy power. And so then the men become just the opposite of that, and they become kind of uber masculine, like I said, the He-Man Woman Haters Club. And then so now you have this dichotomy of women who are impossible and men who are impossible. And somewhere in the middle, or the rest of us are just trying to live our lives. And we get labeled as trad, or we get labeled as whatever. And that's kind of what appealed to me about this show and listening to this and coming to understand, because I am that previous generation. I'm kind of on the younger end of that previous generation of those who were compelled to be a certain way. And now young women aren't being compelled. It seems like the harder we push STEM on women, the fewer and fewer women go into it. The harder we try to push women to be more traditionally like men, the backlash has been, okay, we've just made a lot of really, really bitchy women, unrealistic bitchy women. And then men look at that and go, I don't want that. So they reject that. And that's why I said, one of the things that I find interesting is so many of the guys who watch your show, yes, I'm assuming your gender again, are men. And I'm kind of, I could only assume it's because, like, okay, good, that normal still exists, that norm, that in between still exists. And maybe it's just the radical on both sides that we see in social media or in the entertainment industry. But it's still a really interesting question to me is, what is it about this show that brings men to this show? You kind of would hope maybe some women would come in too, but the women who come in are more the women who are like you guys.
We have a couple. We have a few. None of them are here, of course. But we have them, I promise.
Nobi, Dr. Rachel. Anyways, no, I feel like the men that are in the show, and like, forgive me if I'm wrong, men. I think that since we're kind of in the middle-esque, that it feels like we could be hopeful for people that are like similar to us. And that if there are women there, I hope that I inspire you to feel that, you don't need to be independent. You can be independent. Like the idea, like when the whole idea of like submitting to your husband, I submit to Mark, but at the same time, this is a very equal relationship. He's going to do the things that he's very good at for the relationship. So am I. If he needs to ask for something, it's not him being a beta. It's him being like, I know you're good at this. Yeah. Please help me. It is not that bad. Oh, I remember the tweet from Pearl saying, if you have to ask your wife if you need to go for like scheduling purposes to hang out with friends, then you are XYZ. I'm like, no. A lot of women are very good with details and schedules. I am sorry. Yes. The amount of times men forget about certain dates.
I have things. I like made appointments for Duke, and I have them on his calendar, and I have them on my calendar. Like, don't forget this. Like, that's all that means. And honestly, just as a back and forth in general, I've seen a couple of TikTok videos about this, the very topic. You should be asking your spouse for permission, not permission necessarily. This might not be the right word, but you guys are now one person in a sense. You are a team now. And so this may be a group of friends you don't like, he doesn't like. Meh, maybe we go, we stay for an hour. No, I don't really want to go. Oh, good. You don't want to go? Neither do I. So now I can say, I don't want to go. It's not asking for permission. People think it's asking for permission, but it's not permission. It's checking with the person that you're going to be spending the rest of your, excuse me, ma'am, spending the rest of your life with. Hey, do you want to do this? Because I don't know if I do.
It's not. You're right. It's not seeking permission. It's basically
What are you doing?
it's seeking agreement.
Yeah.
Because if they want to go do that and they want you to go somewhere, you want to be asked. You don't want to be informed. Oh, by the way, we're going to go do this thing that you hate. Okay, well, we're going to do that, and you better do something really good when we leave. That's just polite.
It is
like
because
politeness doesn't exist in certain
guess
places.
Guess what? Say if you wanted to go after work to hang out with the boys, but I made dinner for the family.
Right.
That's kind of rude.
Let me check with my wife.
That's why you schedule it. That's why you say, hey, honey, I'm going to go hang out with these guys at this time.
Yeah, exactly. And like, okay, go.
So it's not asking permission. It's basically just being polite or considerate to the person that you're with.
Yeah. People have taken it as, and I don't know where it comes from. I see things now, especially now that I'm older, I see things like this whole Snow White debacle going on, and we'll talk about this more next week. You guys are gonna be the Poor Choices by myself. We're gonna be talking about it, trust me. But anyway, a little snippet is I grew up on the Disney princesses. My father has a very passionate hatred against the Little Mermaid because she's a teenager brat who disobeyed her father. Like, I get where he's coming from. Fine.
Yeah.
Disney has a bad message. Yeah. But there, at some point, and I don't know when it happened because I can remember it for as long as I can remember, is, well, the princesses are just waiting for a man and they're useless and they do nothing and blah, blah, blah. No, they're not that way. And Cinderella made her prince better, and she wasn't looking for a prince. She wanted to go to a ball. She wanted to wear a pretty.
She wanted to go to a party. Yeah.
Like, what? He's the one that saw her and went, I want that one. It's I don't know where this narrative has come from. So now we've overcorrected so much the other way that every single movie is like, oh my God. Outlander, I think, is a really good balance. Hey, knock it off. Jamie Fraser is the main lead. We love him. We all love him. And then Claire is his lover, and she is an independent-ish woman from the 40s. She was a nurse in World War II. She's got some balls. Okay, you have to have balls to be a nurse, especially in World War II. So she's got this independent streak. He's used to a more traditionally Catholic submissive women. It's the 1700s, blah, blah, and they balance each other out. He protects her. He's stopped her from impending death, but he's also been there when he couldn't save her, and she had to kind of pull herself up to her bootstraps, and they balance each other out. I think personally, if anybody is looking for a show that has the masculine and feminine, Outlander is a great example. 50 Shades of Grey is not. But 50 Shades of Grey is so popular because as much as I hate the subject matter, and I think it's a terrible book, we crave that. And that book was so popular because he was so dominant. And it came at a time, and if it had been released now, it would be the same reaction. It came at a time where women, we've lost that. And we want it, but we don't want to admit that we want it, but we still want to be ourselves, and we still want to do all these things. That's why so many romance novels, modern romance novels, have that kink to it. That's all I see on my TikTok feed, that book talk hashtag thing that's going around. The book TikTok is all about that fantasy. Go, oh, well, he arrested you, but he's going to dominate you in the jail cell later kind of thing. You're like, ew, like, why? Gross.
Yeah, the reality of that is really, it's the rape fantasy kind of thing, yes.
The reality of it is we want that dominance, not necessarily in the illegal version, but that take control. You will do what I say to a certain extent, or I don't want to make decisions, so we're going to go here, we're going to do this, we're going to do the blah, 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 blah. That is why they're so popular, because we have lost that. Women, all the girls I know, myself in particular, my brain is 90 miles an hour all the time. And I have to tell him sometimes, like, I need you to pick something because I can't. Like, I can't wrap my brain around making a decision right now. I need you to do it. And he'll do it. And so we compartmentalize things differently, or we don't at all, depending on the subject matter. Whereas men can go file 1, file 2, file 3. Okay, this is the conclusion I've come to. What are your thoughts? And you go, okay, and you counteract with something as a girl. And that's where that balance comes from. We have lost that. We have lost that. It's so sad. It's so sad because we've lost it.
So the
And
more
I see it
independent,
more now with him than I've ever seen
Yeah.
it ever. It's crazy.
So I think so. The more independent we've become, the more free we've become, the more we crave that. And then I think you see that true. A lot of the more rape fantasy porn is watched by women.
I think
Yes.
Because
it's a bit of both, because I feel like you're insinuating like we want polar opposites, because yes, we want that possibly, but on their terms. And I say I don't want to say our terms, because I don't want to lump myself in that category, but on
I
their
agree.
terms. It's like, okay, sure, I want that dominance in the bedroom, but when it comes to making decisions, financial decisions, life decisions, a lot of people or women don't think about give and take.
Yeah. I flat out, like, again, I keep bringing my personal into it because this is something that I'm going through right now. I flat out told the guy I'm with now, listen, this is where I would like to go. I want to move to Texas or Florida. Like, those are my two. I said, however, if you find a job opportunity in your field that is the best it's ever been, and it's South Dakota, Montana, wherever, I said, I will follow you there. And that's submitting to your man. Modern women don't, they think submission, they think like bowing and like chains around the neck. No, that is where the submission comes in. You are willing to be like, you know what? I want these things. However, you're going to be my provider because I want to raise our children and this, and that, and the other. So wherever you think is best is where I'm going to go.
So would that be submission or would that be compromise?
I don't know. Maybe
it's a bit of both. I think it's that that you in a sense submit to your husband in the sense that you trust his judgment, but it can be also be a form of compromise, because it's like, hey, I make the best money here, but that's also hoping that you also vetted your person to also make the good decisions for you. So as long as they're making good decisions for both of you, it's a compromise. But if it's not a good decision for the two of you and only for him, then I guess it's only submission. But that's why you have to be picky and choosy with who you are going to end up being with, because whether it's either or, as long as it benefits the both of you, what does it matter?
Well, and I think that's kind of why I was asking the question, because a lot of times you don't know if it's submission or compromise until you're down the road, right? You don't know. You can't know are these the best decisions. So what I've seen is women who have buyer's remorse because they thought they were making a compromise and it turned out to be a submission, and then they kind of go down that spiral.
I think that it's okay to make mistakes, like if it's going to be something that like you could, yes, Mark, trust.
That is where trust comes in. It really is. And that's where, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. That's where vetting your person, right? So these girls who are like, well, I moved across the country for him, blah, 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 are also the same girls that are going to tell you he would wait 6 hours to reply to my text message, or he would be busy, or you know what I mean? Like, hello?
That's kind of needy. Yeah.
Like you have to take into context everything that's happening, in the end, who moved across the country? You did. You didn't have to.
Yeah. So
if you didn't want to, you could break up with them. Now, if you're in a marriage and have kids, it's a totally different situation. But, as a non-married person, this is the things that you need to take into account. A lot of people, I feel like, including myself when I was younger, until it wasn't a thing, you get into these relationships, you put the time in, and then when it comes time to that, like, am I ready to make that commitment? And you're saying, I'm waiting for him to propose to me. I'm waiting for him. We've been together for 5 years. I put the time in. we're supposed to get to that point.
Mhm.
Yes! I hate those words. I put that time in already. No, it shouldn't take 5 years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It depends on where your relationship is at. Like, that shouldn't be the aspect that makes you want to stay with a person. And that's something that I myself made a mistake with at some point in my life. And,
So you're talking about investment, basically.
investment.
I
Just
invested,
because you
and I
invested the
expect that
time.
investment to pay off. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Investment,
That's not how it works,
you
really, no.
shouldn't expect it, okay? And also, at this point in my life, like, if I wasn't married to Mark, which of course I am, would I expect an engagement? If I make a commitment, even as boyfriend, girlfriend, I expect, you and I to be trustworthy, honest, open. It doesn't change whether you're in a marriage or not. That's an expectation I set at the beginning now. So,
do you think, though, and this is no way a challenge, just curiosity,
of course,
that you would be that person if you had not met and married Mark? Would you be in that place that you are now?
I wanted to get married to him. Whether the commitment was through the government or not, that commitment would have been a thing. Like, I
But
would
if
have
you
done.
hadn't met him at all, would you have reached? Because what you're talking
Yes.
about,
Yes.
in my opinion,
Yes.
is emotional maturity.
Last relationship I had prior to Mark, the major relationship, I'll say, really enlightened me to the things that I really wanted in a relationship, because I didn't stand up to myself at a moment that I should have. And then I kept on saying, I spent time with him. I want to be able to get married to him, blah, blah, blah. Even though there was a lot of disrespect at the beginning of the relationship that I hadn't seen at the beginning. Or I seen, but I dismissed.
So with my husband, he has made me a better person.
Oh.
Because I have, I mean, I was 21 when I met him, but because we've matured together. So but a lot of the emotional maturity that I have now came from that compromise experience, that living with someone for so long and finding those right paths. So that's why I was asking, if you haven't had that experience, if you haven't figured out what you will and won't accept, do you think you would be, either one of you would be at where you are in point in terms of the way you think now? Would you have reached that point, or is it because you married him, and because after talking to Mark, I think he's a very empathetic person.
Absolutely.
So would you, because of that empathy, it's made you a stronger person?
For me specifically, I will say this. Mark is very empathetic. I totally agree with that. I think that I have grown into a lot of empathy in my job as an X-ray tech. And especially, what is it? So I have a friend who, she had been abused physically, and I absorbed a lot of her therapy. She went to therapy for a year after, and we'd talk about things, and we were both single at the same time. So when I think that really changed me integrally to know more about me and really reflect on myself. I would love to go to therapy one day, in a sense, to
God, it's
talk
fun.
about things, like, for me personally. And like, I know people trash therapy a lot, but I think it gives a lot of introspective reflection on yourself. And I mean, I did what I call secondhand therapy. That really brought me towards Mark and being like, okay, I have a lot to give. And that really helped. And he has shown me a
you
lot as
reached a
well.
point of maturity where you were able to say, yeah, Mark is the right guy, because you're able to recognize it.
Yes. And he has helped, of course. But if I wanted to say at the point of when I was ready for Mark, it was probably through the therapy, secondhand therapy. I don't know.
So,
what about you, Tugs?
I was gonna say, so Tugs, you've said your mom was single and she kind of raised you guys to be independent minded.
Yeah. Look, I mean, not to open up that can of worms, it's crazy, but the short version is she had a lot of baggage, and that carried over to her marriage. And it's he said, she said. This is a lot of intimate stuff, but it's he said, she said. She was a single mom. She worked. She went from a stay-at-home mom to being a working single mom, and it just was. Listen, we make fun of the guy who was like, endure. Unless you're being physically abused, like, please try and stick out, because good grief. And so it was that mindset that was, she was very much like, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. It didn't work out that way. I did this, but she also was the one that chose the divorce. So as I've gotten older, it's kind of like, where does that come from? What was the point of that? You know, I had a lot of questions. So I went to therapy just a couple years ago. Oh God, what is it? 2023. So 2 years ago. And it helped me kind of look at myself and go, okay, this is where I was raised, with this confusing mindset, and not as if it was bad or good. That's neither here nor there for my mom, but I was raised in a confusing mindset, because this is where we're at, but this is what you wanted, but then this is what you chose, and where do I go from here? And the society is like, you know, you need to be a boss B and all of this stuff. And I'm like, well, I don't, like, I can work and I'm a really good worker. Like, listen, not to toot my own horn, I'm an excellent worker. Okay. You would be lucky to have me as a worker, but I don't want to. I don't want to. I'm not a supervisor. I'm not a leader. So then I'm stuck in like these entry level admin jobs, which make money, but not enough money. And then it's like, but I don't want to promote because that's not me. And I'd rather be at home. And it's just been this internal struggle for forever. And so a couple of years ago, I went to therapy. I do think therapy is good. I don't think that therapy is good for the long term. So if you're in therapy for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever years, that's a problem. Either you need to fire your
That's because
therapist.
you're not solving anything. You're just
Yeah.
finding out. You're paying someone to be your friend. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now, I'm sure there's some exceptions, you know, witnessing a traumatic event. Okay, fine. But for in general, you know, especially as millennial kids who are the first generation period to be raised by divorced parents, we should be out of there by a year, maybe 2 tops. Okay. Like, let's focus. So there are people who use it as a crutch. So I think that that's bad, but I do think therapy is very helpful, because you can have somebody you can spill everything to and say, I did these bad things, or I did these good things, or I'm confused and all these things. And they go, well, what about A, B, C, and D? And you're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Okay. And then you can kind of, you can forgive yourself, which is the most important thing to do, is forgive yourself first, and then forgive the people around you. And then third, in my personal opinion, because I'm religious again, now, whatever, is let it go to God, and he will handle it from there for those people who really did you wrong, you know. But your first step is forgiving yourself first. And I think that there is not enough emphasis in the modern. We all make mistakes. We all do bad things. We all do. The level obviously ranges, but we all do bad things. We all do good things. And we have to be able to sit to ourselves and look at ourselves in the mirror and be like, you did this thing. You were an idiot, but it's okay, because we're not going to do it again. And so many people cannot take accountability, especially my generation and younger. They cannot take accountability for what they have or have not done. Right. And it goes both ways. You did the things or you didn't do the thing and you regret it. And you have to be able to sit down and list all that stuff out. The therapist I went to was like, write everything down that you feel guilty about, and then read it out loud. And some of the stuff you're going to go, really stupid. Like, why are you guilty? That's so dumb. And the other stuff you're going to look at yourself and go, yeah, I did that. And I hate that I did that. And I hate myself for it, but I have to move on. Like, I can't sit in this rotten, awful core, which is what we see so many people, especially on social media. They can't deal with whatever it is they're going through, and so they're rotten. They're rotten to people. They're mean. They may be mean to themselves. And I still have my moments.
Put the blame on other people, which I find is the hardest.
And it's hard. Like, even I still to this day, and he gets so mad at me. I'm like, God, you're so dumb. I do something, and I'm like, God, Tugs, like, why are you so stupid? And he's like, stop talking about yourself like that. Because we do. We get into this mindset where we talk about ourselves. We're like, oh God, you're so ugly, or you're so this, or whatever. And that manifests. Like, yes, I believe in religion, and manifestation is whatever, and we can debate that all day. But I do believe the thoughts we have about ourselves and the thoughts we put in our head, if we wake up every day and go, I hate this day, I don't want to go to work, I hate everybody, blah, blah, you're gonna have a bad day the rest of the day. If you go wake up and you say, I'm so ugly, I'm so this, I'm this, that, and the other, you're gonna feel that about yourself. You know what I mean? So if you wake up and you go, thank you, Lord, for this day, or thank you, universe, for this day, whatever you believe in, and you say, thank you, I am breathing and this is a new start and I am flawed, that I can do this and I'm going to work on these things. And then that will change your mindset. And that is what therapy does. You know, stop after a couple of years though, because anything longer is just bad.
It's just nagging, yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
I've grown a lot.
It kind of sounds like these podcasts that you guys do are almost like a form of therapy for you, though, because you're able to express a lot of these things.
I think yes, and maybe imparting our wisdom on experience.
Your experience, yeah.
But everyone, you know, just as I had grown up, you're only open to the wisdom if you want to be. If you're not going to listen. And I mean, we're not clickbaity enough to be popularized as of yet. And I mean, hey, at some point it will. We hope it will, but I don't want to go down the route of trying to get clicks just to be popular.
That was actually one of my questions, because I'm about winding. I've had you guys talking for an hour and a half. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Please.
We love
one
talking.
of my questions was,
We're good.
where do you kind of see this kind of going? Because it has risen in popularity. More people are starting. I mean, both of you have risen in popularity. Do you guys get recognized when you go out now? I mean, have you run into that?
No. I mean,
Kelly has been recognized in public a few times, and it's kind of weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We one time when we first early on, he used to do a lot more shows in the area, and we would go to the movies, and people would come up and they'd start talking to him. I'm like, go away, because that's the other kind of side of it. But where do you kind of see this going? You know, do you see this continuing to evolve?
Of course. So we have talked about where we want the show to go, and it's contingent on, of course, schedule, moves, work, all that sort of stuff. So
babies, marriage.
I was going to say, do you see children as a part? Because that's a whole different.
Of course. And you know, things will change, and I like, as I've told Mark, I have a 6-month plan at the most, maybe a year.
I know.
Because things will change so quickly, because you don't, why, I hate that question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't freaking know.
No.
I have no idea.
So when I asked the question, because I don't even know I can't even say where I was 5 years ago. But like I said, there's an evolution on this channel, and it's as it was organically, but there were decisions being made that moved it in that direction. So it just didn't sort of happen. You guys evolved it intentionally, and you're continuing to evolve it. So I guess kind of the question is not so much where do you see where you see the show, because if you do start to have kids, and that aspect is going to move into your life, do you see continuing to bring that to the show, bringing those experiences?
Absolutely.
I think, yeah, heck yeah.
I think like it would be such a great like little segment, be like, I don't know what we'd call it.
I don't know either.
Poor choices with Tugs if she had kids, or like poor choices with Extra Girl, or mommy milker corner. I don't know. I don't know.
That could be really bad really fast. Yeah.
It was a really
it's poor choices, but we're like pumping milk.
I was gonna say, when I actually heard someone refer to me once as a milker, I went, really? Well, it took me a minute.
We'll call it the mommy corner. I don't know.
Well, the thing is too, is like it's gonna evolve into something, I mean, super quickly, because I'm gonna be moving from here into a travel trailer, which is so nice. I'll send you all pictures. It's gonna be so cute. With this guy, and then we're gonna be moving out of state. So it'll be like poor choices with Tugs on the road. It'll be,
That's
it'll
cool.
be she started like a little garden. I want a homestead. I want my own cow. I want my own chickens. So we'll talk about that kind of stuff. Yeah, daycare edition. It just, what I hope for from all of this, and listen, take our advice with a grain of salt, but I at the very minimum hope for a different perspective. And maybe that will help some of the single guys in our chat. I see you all and my heart breaks for you, to like not give up hope, and not become one of these guys that is like, women
We don't want you to
less."
get black-pilled about relationships. Because
Yeah.
it is possible. I think so Shad made a video on Night's Watch recently where he talks about he wants men and women to have what he has, because he I will say this, like Shad and Gary, the way they talk about their wives is absolutely beautiful. I want people to have that. I feel like
my husband is like that. I'm very fortunate that way.
Yeah, and I think that because of what we've talked about, the divide between men and women is so wide. He talks about how we need to just work on ourselves to be the example that we want to be in a relationship. And I think not enough people do that, because we see and I'll speak on women because that's just my experience. A lot of people posting bikini pictures, partying late at night, and doing all this, like, even just like hookup culture. Is that the type of man you want to be, the one that like hooks up with people all the time because you're hooking up with people all the time? Like it's just, as my parents have said, you have to live what you want to be.
So those role models that we've kind of lost is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yes. And
I think so.
If you don't live that life, how can you bring that life in there? Because you're not setting the example. So I don't know.
Well, it's like, so we were recently in Washington State. Duke's sister got married, and his cousin and his wife, who I absolutely fell in love with the both of them. But we after the wedding, Duke and I and a couple of friends that we knew were like, oh, let's go to this bar afterwards. And we invited her. And at that point, her husband had gone home and to make sure the babysitter was okay with the kids, because she was the photographer for the wedding. And we had asked her, like, hey, do you want to come with us? It's not going to be crazy. We're just going for a couple of drinks, to catch up or whatever. And she said, I don't go to bars without my husband. And I was like, that is so, let's see, I'm 35. He's just turned 21. They're 26 years old. And I was like, that gave me so much hope. Like, yes, exact. That is the correct answer. You know what I mean? And I would have expected him to say the same, or at the very minimum, as a guy, hey, honey, is it okay if I go for one drink? But she flat out was like, I appreciate it. And I know you guys aren't like club crazy people who are going to do cocaine and stuff in the bathroom. She was like, but I don't go to bars without my husband. And I was like,
but that's the respect. That's the trust, right?
Respect that. I really do. Yeah. And she probably could have called him and be like, hey, can I go? And he would be like, yeah, have fun. I'll pick you up or whatever. Because, she wasn't going to drink anyway. But the respect was, I'm not going to go to this place. She's a very pretty girl. Without him, I'm not going to do it. And so I was like, absolutely. I love that. And so the fact that they're so young, it just made my heart, like, I think I was drunk from the wedding, but I think I've talked about it for the rest of the night. I was like, oh my God, they're so young and so cute. So happy. They might be even younger than that. Anyway, the point is that they're young, and she had that mindset, and he has that mindset. Like, they go everywhere together, kind of thing. So I love that. So the tides are turning. It may be a small, teeny, tiny.
No, I think so. Because even like the younger generation are not doing the drugs, the tattoos. It
does seem like tattoo culture is starting to die off. Thank God. Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, hey, whatever. You do what you want to do. I've always deferred to that. That's your body, your temple, whatever. But I feel like the younger generation, we had a lot of liberalisms in the last was it Gen, I don't even want to call it Gen Z, because some Gen Z is falling into that
it's the millennial Gen Z
late Gen Z.
My kids are Gen Z, and they're sort of polar opposites to their previous generation.
So
weird.
it's very interesting to see the difference, or as we call the pendulum swinging, because it always is going to happen. So we're going to see this new branch of more, I think, conservative. Time will only tell.
I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I think it's swinging the other way. I watch Brett Cooper. Shout out to Brett Cooper. Be my bestie, girl. I love you. Anyway, that's a whole other plug. I watch Brett Cooper a lot, and she's Gen Z. She's 22. And she will point out that, like, as much as we rip and pick on Gen Z, the Tide Pods and all that, there are some things that they are doing. And maybe it's not so much mainstream, but she'll call out, like, for instance, a lot of the people recently that I've seen personally calling out this new Snow White actress on her bullcrap have been Gen Z. They've been the younger generation, which shocked me scrolling through my TikTok feed. I was like, I mean, there's been my age and older too, but don't get me wrong, like us millennials and older too. But there's been a lot of younger girls that are like, this is not what this is. Like, why? What is wrong with you? You know, kind of thing. And I'm like, thank you. And so there are, I think, a chunk of them that are waking up a little, and I just hope that they spread that to their friends and their, social media people that they're
I definitely think they are.
I hope so.
I hope so, because, like, realistically, I maybe she is. I feel bad for her, Rachel Zegler. I will say this: having a lot of people hate on you is really disheartening, and
it's hard.
It's really hard.
You open your mouth, girl.
I think that's the thing, is that she has to be accountable for the words that she speaks, especially because she is on a platform of being well known. So she is going to be dissected. And I do feel bad that she's probably getting a lot more than she ever anticipated. And I hope she learns from this.
Well, she's surrounded by a lot of people who encourage her to just say stupid shit.
Yeah,
and applaud her for saying it. And probably without recognizing, she doesn't have the maturity to recognize it, that that stuff's going to stay with her
forever.
So she's just behaving like a teenager who's been given just a car they don't know how to drive. And they're wrecking it.
You know what? If she once the strike is over, I guess, because she won't be able to say anything prior to, if she takes accountability for that, I think that will actually go a really long way. But will she? Time will tell.
It's going to come out and determine how mature is she. She hasn't demonstrated anything to indicate
now
it
that
yet,
I've
but
seen,
she is very young.
Now that I've seen,
but
I didn't make good
so many
choices. I made some, okay, not all.
Yeah, I do kind of wonder what her agent is telling her. Like, honey, you're killing your career. What are you doing?
Where is her PR team? And not even her specifically, because I'm sure they probably took vacation, but where is Disney's PR team? Like, even if that's the message you're trying to promote, we'll go, because I'm sure it is. Rein it in, girl. The movie hasn't even been completely filmed.
What are you thinking?
For another year. What are you doing? Oh my God. I'm like, she's 22 and it shows.
It shows. It really shows.
Poor girl. And I liked her.
But she's 22 and she's coming off like she's 14. You know what I mean? And I think that's where it's those of us are going, oh, just shut up. Just stop.
And of course, and of all the princesses, like, I feel like Snow White and evidenced as from everybody's social media feeds in general, Snow White is like one we can all rally behind. And it's been done. Not talking about Kristen Stewart, that was an abomination, but Mirror Mirror with Lily Collins was a great independent Snow White. She still had love at the end, right?
Lily Collins.
Yeah, I love her. Once Upon a Time, the TV show. Jennifer Goodwin is my queen. I love her. She had to be, her Snow White had to be independent and had to be a warrior, because she literally had this queen. The entire country was after her to murder her. And so she learned to fight. She learned to do all these things out of necessity, right? But she still ended up finding her one true love. She still in the TV show had to have true love's kiss. And the fact that the actors fell in love in real life is a whole nother, I love it.
You
Anyway.
also have to take into context that the story
Yes.
was different from the original.
Yes, they didn't
Very.
bash
The
the original. They didn't
original
say,
story.
well, Jennifer Goodwin
Uh,
knows how to use a sword, and Adriana Castilla, I can't pronounce her last name right, but was a terrible, awful person, and we hate her. Like, nobody ever said that. And that's the biggest difference is, like, Lily Collins was like, it's a different spin on an old tale.
mhm.
Jennifer Goodwin, it's a different spin on an old tale, and I think you guys will like it. We love Adriana, and Snow White was the blueprint, and she's not wrong. She's the first Disney princess. Walt got Academy Awards honorarily, and 7 of them for that movie because it broke history. It's the first full-length animated feature film in history. He sacrificed his entire life savings to make that movie, and it worked. And that is where I think Rachel and whoever else is working on this movie, Greta Gerwig, which doesn't surprise me after watching Barbie, don't understand. Like, they're just looking at it as, well, she's just this helpless little girl and she's useless. She's not useless. She's kind. She teaches the dwarves how to grow up, to clean after themselves. They didn't clean up after themselves. She did that. She taught them how to bathe. I mean, in like, not like creepy way, but like you're coming from the mind, you're not going to go to bed, like take a shower. She treated them with kindness, and in turn, they protected her as best as they could. And that's the point. And she's young and naive. And so she fell for this old lady, which we women do. We have emotional souls. And that's the point. Like, that's the point.
Well, a lot of the dwarves, the point was she's very maternal because she is a girl. Her wicked stepmother is not maternal at all. That's why she orders her death, which we see as unnatural. And I know people resent that, but I think you could see some reality there.
Yep.
And she's pure at heart, but yes, she gains more wisdom because she has more experience. She's an iconic character. Yeah.
Tara gets it.
I hate when they say, like, the fairest one of all is the most just. Like, that makes
I know.
No, that's nonsensical. The whole thing is about vanity and how it can destroy you, because vanity is what destroys the evil stepmother. And because there is no vanity in Snow White, because she is maternal, because she is giving, she's worth saving. That's why the hunter can't kill her.
Yep.
But they can't portray that because they want Snow White to be the savior, not
well, because they're trying to create a narrative, and it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. They're creating a narrative of women that is unnatural. And the more you push women toward that, the more we become unnatural, and we seek that dominating. That's where you said the weird, every romance story knows a woman being dominated, because you're asking us to go against our natures. And I'm not saying every woman is maternal. I have enough mothers to prove that some of them are not.
And that's the point with Snow White and Cinderella.
Exactly.
The both mothers in those cases, like, everybody always says, like, oh, they were just waiting for a prince or whatever. The bad guy in both of those movies was a woman. Hello?
Yep.
Hello? Anyway.
Yeah, they're feminist stories, really.
No,
and we just don't like that feminism anymore.
And that's why it's gonna flop, because no one wants to see that.
No,
it's not even a love story. And I've said this about movies, that especially watching the old stuff versus the new stuff. You need morals, family, love, and relationships. If you have any of those, your movie will be really good.
Well, there's certain themes this is something they taught in literature, is there's certain themes, recurring themes. There's only a handful of them. There's like the quest theme, or someone who goes on a journey, and Star Wars is a quest theme. And then there are other themes, and these are the maternal themes, that the kind of the more female themes. And you even see it in mythology with the roles of the gods versus the goddesses, and like a lot of the goddesses are earth goddesses, whereas the gods are sky gods, because there's that dichotomy of the woman being the maternal. But they're eternal themes that everybody recognizes, and you can play with them and tweak them. Like you said, you can turn Snow White into a warrior, but she's not anti-man. She's not becoming the thing that she is fighting against, because that's a different kind of arc. And when you start taking those themes and trying to masculinize, so you take the earth goddess and you make her a sky god, but she still does all the earth goddess things. Nobody wants that. They want to see that representation. They want to see that ending, that maybe it's not always a happy ending, but it's an ending that makes sense.
I think the idea is persevering over your negative qualities with the positive qualities and not dominating over people.
Yep.
And it's really kind of the theme you see over and over in those old Disney movies. And so many of the princesses, they were sort of defining a role because of the time they're in the role of women, but they weren't defining it in an obedience way or a submissive way. They were just defining it as, here's how you find that place, and don't give up on your dream. For a lot of girls, finding Prince Charming is still a dream.
Oh yeah.
I think for most people, you seek out having a partner.
Yep.
And that's so they're trying to make this really and my favorite part of it is the dwarves aren't even dwarves as far as we can tell. That's actually my favorite part of it is they're actually making a movie with 7 dwarves who aren't dwarves.
I remember what was it? A Nooner or BBC? It was like Snow White and the Californian Men.
Exactly. Yeah, the baristas. I think one of them calls them the baristas.
Yeah.
7 baristas.
It is just like, so there's no Snow White and Snow White. There's no dwarves in Snow White and the 7 dwarves. The evil queen actually is far prettier than the person she's having executed. So why is she even bothering with this girl?
I know. That was the problem with the Kristen Stewart movie.
Yeah, I don't understand it at all. So I have one final question for you guys. If you were to write a book or, a blog or whatever, what would you title that book? My husband and I had this conversation this morning, and our title would be, just tell me what I want to hear. What would your title be?
Oh, that's a hard question. Is this like a biography?
It's what you guys have just spent a lot of time talking about the evolution of how you got where you are, like through therapy, through relationships where you learned, meeting people who've helped you develop. That you see this show as being is working toward being a role model for people who don't have this sort of influence in their lives. It could be a biography, it could be a fantasy story, it could be nonfiction, fiction, technical manual, whatever.
Oh my God, this is a hard question.
Sorry.
Honestly, for Tugs, I could answer for her. She could literally could just be called That Tug Life.
That's true.
Her name on Twitter just says it all. Literally, That Tug Life.
Either that, or if I was writing an autobiography, it would be something like everything you know is a lie. Pour yourself a wine, kind of thing. That life actually could work. Yeah. I like that.
Especially if you're going to be living in a trailer for a while.
That trailer life.
I think you should make vlogs. Literally,
I'm gonna make little. They'll be on my Instagram, like little reels of me being like, I don't know what to do. Why
doesn't the water work?
Oh God. I don't know what I would call mine. This is tough.
From like not this exact title, but like rags to riches. But in your case, it would be like from noob to nerd queen or something like
The path to nerddom. Oh God.
Or normie to nerd. You could be normie to nerd.
N to N. There we go.
There you go.
Kate just says That Tug Life, 84 years of playing The Witcher 3.
I know, maybe The Witcher. Maybe Saturday.
I want my old pants to fit again. Oh my God.
Same,
that is actually true. I'm on my way to fit into my old pants. So,
I gained the weight you've lost, by the way.
It's so funny. Well, not that part. Sorry. My friend and I were going on a hike in 6 days. And she told me, she's like, my rain pants from 4 years ago don't fit anymore. I was like, oh my God, I didn't actually try mine on. I'm going to go try mine on right now. I won't lie. They were very snug.
Cool.
But
Unbutton them, it'll be fine.
they fit. Honestly, I'm hoping it doesn't rain while I'm there.
You're going to Europe. It rains all the time.
Well, okay, so she
So
sent
where you're
me,
at in Europe.
she sent
Rained
me
when
the
we were
weather
there.
report. When you're in the valley, it is 28 to 30 degrees. When you're in the mountains, it's 0 to 3 degrees Celsius. Now, let me just translate that to freedom units, because I just realized with your look on your face.
We don't do slavery unions here. We do freedom units.
In the valley, it's 86 Fahrenheit, and freezing point in the mountains.
Oh, that's cold.
So I need to bring a variety of things, and I mean,
You know what you should do is while you're
So I
there,
get a good idea where you're going from that case. Okay.
slaughter a sheep and take its wool. You'll be fine.
I'll tell you after. Actually, I can just tell you in the private chat.
So you know what I do when my son went to Montana for school is I went and bought him Icelandic clothes because it's always cold there.
Sarah, this is so true.
Iceland gloves, an Iceland hat, and an Iceland scarf.
I've
And
never been
the
to Iceland.
merino socks. Yeah,
Oh,
Iceland
I have merino. I'm wearing my hiking boots to help break them in.
There you go.
I know it seems silly to wear shoes in the house, but it will help mold to my
wear
feet.
them. And
If you're
wear
gonna go
them,
hiking,
climb
you
a
want your
mountain.
shoes. Yep. If you
Yeah,
want your
I've been literally walking around my house for the last 3 weeks in my shoes because I'm crazy. And as an Asian,
have you walked
is
in them
bad.
like uphill yet?
I did when I first initially got it, but then I just was lazy.
I would just like pick, I don't know what you have out there where you're at, but if you have like a tiny little mountain, I would just pick them and go.
Yeah.
Like, go up the mountain.
These shoes have ankle support, so they're good.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, she's right though. Go walk up a hill, like a hill that has dirt.
Yeah, but
just to make sure that there's not anything weird.
no, they're great. They're great. They're more roomy than the last shoes I had, so I hopefully won't be losing 4 toenails this year.
You know, they grow
I
back.
hope you don't
It's
either.
fine. They grow
You
back.
don't need toenails technically. They
You
help.
don't need them. It's fine. You just need your
Yeah, but when you
toes.
get a pedicure, it's really awkward.
Oh, trust
I
me,
love
I
getting
know.
a pedicure when I lose my toenails.
I lost part of a toenail, and the pedicure was weird.
Oh my God! If I maybe I'll show you offline what my feet look like after my last hike. I don't know if I've even shown Tug.
I wouldn't show that online. People have a whole thing for your feet. So.
That's
no,
fair.
I know.
That's fair. Listen, losing it, you haven't lived unless you've lost a toenail. It's quite the experience.
Oh my God, especially in the winter. Screw that.
I used to run half marathons on a consistent basis. Now I'm a little chunky and don't do that anymore. But I used to. And let me tell you what, the first time I lost a toenail, I was like, no, why? What is this? What is happening?
Ouch.
You don't need
I
them. You
lost
don't need
one
them.
when I got stepped on from a horse.
Ouch.
Oh, ouch.
That's
Did
why
it
I
break your
said
foot?
horses are you have to be a labor of pain. So
I think
if you have
taking
horses,
care
you
of
will
a
get hurt.
horse is difficult. And
They are
it's
stubborn.
rewarding but difficult.
They are super stubborn. Oh my God. All 3 of the horses. we were
Yeah, I
on
don't own
were
horses
just
anymore.
Honoring. Oh man.
Yeah.
But all right. So this has been a wonderful role reversal segment. I feel like we got to a lot of, like, of course we talked about us, but
Did you get to your questions? I hope so.
Yeah, I think we actually hit a lot of other things that are quite important with the transformation of relationships, especially if we compare them to what we kind of grew up with our parents, and into now. And it's kind of this reoccurring trend that even though it's relationships, I think it's actually quite entrenched in a lot of the entertainment stuff that we're exposed to on a daily basis. And I I only wish that like our conversation does affect someone. Hopefully, if it affects one person, I feel
All you
very
need
good
is
about
one.
it. All you need is
All
one.
you need is
Exactly.
one.
Exactly. And I'll take myself as the example.
Exactly.
But in any case, we did get one super chat. Sauron for $5. Thank you so much. I feel like we were just like chittering on so much about all our stuff. So yeah. In the next 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, Tugs is gonna go solo on her own because I'm gonna be on vacation.
Listen, friends,
Nice.
next week I'm up. Wait, next week, right?
Yeah, next week.
Yeah. Next Wednesday, I'm solo. So if you have questions, post them, tag G&G Poor Choices, DM us, whatever. You can DM me directly. That's fine. If you have questions you want to ask me personally, otherwise I'm just going to like pull a bunch of stuff and we're going to react to it because I'm boring and I'll have wine. It'll be fine. It'll be good. It'll be a good time. We're going to do what I like to call Tugs Talk. That's what we're going to do.
Tugs
There you
Talk.
go.
Okay.
Let's have a chill Tugs Talk version. Yeah.
TT.
Nice.
We got Frank Cool member for 13 months. Oh my God, has it been over a year? Wow.
You've been doing
Great.
it for over 2 years, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's this monetization. That's amazing. And I can't believe you had that analytic just like on the back of your phone.
I told you I did research on this. I
I
didn't just come
love
in
it.
and babble a bunch of stuff. So.
You know more about us than we do. Great stream per usual, ladies. Thank you, Frank. And yeah, it could be a Tugs rant too.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Lynn, for this. This was a great, enriching
Fun.
conversation, and I think that we need more of this in our lives. I think we made some progress in today's session, and that's our time.
Right.
Wow.
That'll be
Group
$200.
therapy. This is group therapy.
Well, guys, thank you for letting me do this. This was it. This is not my comfort zone. Just hanging out with women who are younger than me is kind of weird for me because I just feel like the old lady. And you guys let me talk to you like this and conduct this interview. I mean, I was actually trained to do interviews. And the skill of an interview is it can't sound like an interview.
It didn't sound like an interview.
That was kind of the challenge I wanted to, because I think I certainly understand your history a lot better. Hopefully your chat does too. So I really appreciate you letting me do this.
No, this is great. And you know, when you approached me about this, I was like, this could be interesting actually. I kind of like this. I kind of like this. And so, and as you've seen, our channel is like a all out brawl out. We can do whatever we want type of thing.
And we get away with it, which is weird. What are you doing?
But I think we hit a lot of good topics, just even within your questions, because I didn't even think of this. The evolution of our channel from even January has been drastic. So
yeah, I saw it when I was going back and looking. I was kind of going, it's almost like watching your children grow. You can see you kind of started out and then I guess the show itself was not adolescent, don't misunderstand, but it's like seeing your kids kind of go from adolescent to kind of later teenagers to grown people.
yeah,
because I can see that maturity over the course of the shows, and that's what that was one of the things I wanted to bring to it is, you guys really there's a genesis here.
yeah, and I think we have grown a lot, even just, I guess, 2 years now.
Well, I mean, and we've grown as what I like about it is, and I have not gone back and like watched our stuff to confirm this, but we've grown as people in real life too. And I think that shows on the, we're not trying to still be those people we were 2 years ago, where we've grown and we've embraced.
Oh yeah.
That. So
I'll speak to this. Tugs has grown a lot as a woman. I think being very aware of just people and how she conducts herself. She's grown a lot, and I hope positively because of me. But as a small aspect, not all me, but it's a small aspect. But yeah, I maybe say too much truth.
No, I appreciate.
Maybe that should be the title of your book. Say too much truth.
Yes.
Ooh, there you go.
The hard truth. There you go. Give a bit of a X-ray girl. That's what she said humor in my title.
You can't handle the truth.
No, but that's the thing. I have friends who I know. I will tell them the hard truth, but the some that are not ready for that truth. And
yeah.
you just have to, if at one point you say the hard truth and they don't take it, you just, they'll learn eventually.
Yep.
They're
You just gotta wait. Yeah.
That's what you did with me. You let me learn.
Sometimes, and I know it because I've been there. My mom told me so many things, and there's so many times I went to my mom. Mom, you're right. You're right.
You were right. I suck.
Well, all you can do is influence. You can't really make anybody do anything, right?
no.
You can just hope to influence them. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Tara Crystal, thank you for the $2. Here's another super chat. Thanks for a great show. Thank you, Tara, for that. By the way, cheers. What did you highlight?
I don't even remember. Oh, this one.
Oh, here. A person can't change unless they want to.
That is fact.
Exactly.
Listen, ladies, not in the chat, but if you watch this back, ladies, you can't.
And men. Hey, and men.
Oh, and men. But yeah, but you know what? That's a famous thing for us girls. Oh, I can change him. No, you can't.
Don't try to change a person. Maybe their cleaning habits, but trust me, as a person who's with a man who's very not detail oriented. I love you, Mark.
Yeah.
I had to, and we've talked about this with Lynn. It's just my standards of cleaning and his standards of cleaning. We met somewhere in the middle. It's fine.
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy with that.
When his standards of cleaning are, well, I can wear this because it's only been stepped on a couple of times. Whereas yours are, wait a minute, I can't do surgery in this room. Yeah.
Men are so funny. They're like, they'll pick stuff up off the floor and smell it. Like, oh, that's fine.
It's okay.
Mark, spot, they're like, no, that's dirty. Like,
I will say this. This is something we've agreed on. If I have to figure out if it's clean or not, just figure it's dirty.
it goes right in the wash.
Yeah, if I have to make a decision, it's not clean.
Exactly. I was like, I don't want to do the sniff test.
Yep. You just throw everything in the wash. It's fine.
But thank you, Lynn, so much. Thank you to the chat for being here, for being part of the conversation and the super chats. Of course, like I said, next week, Tugs is on her own. Solo Tugs, Tugs Talks, Tugs Rant, whatever you want to call it. She'll be here for 2 weeks. Maybe I will join her on the third week if I have time in the UK. But it's going to be an exciting next couple of weeks. And Lynn, you've been amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love you. You guys have brought me into a whole new world that I really wasn't paying attention to. It's actually inspired a couple of friends of mine to start thinking, maybe we have something to say. We don't know. Could be what you do, but we're thinking maybe for women our age.
You know what? Being introspective and reflective is one of the hardest things for people to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think Tug said it too, and forgiving yourself for being such a dipshit early.
Yes.
We are healing. We are not healed. Okay.
And that's where, like, when people say you need to be graceful and forgiving to yourself, as long as you can identify what's going on.
Yep.
Yes.
Figure it out. It sucks. And you're like, I don't want to talk about this, but you need to talk about it, especially to yourself. And if you believe in the Lord, talk about it to the Lord and be like, why am I like this? And he's going to be like, I don't know. It's gonna be okay.
I don't know.
I may do that way, but I may be poured too much independence or something. It's okay.
But anyways,
you might have a different God than I do, so yeah.
The wine gods. But cheers. I hope you guys have a good day, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Enjoy your vacation. Have a lot of fun.
Thank you.
All right.